The second episode of Severance Season 2 has finally arrived, and there's a lot to break down surrounding the Apple TV Plus series. For me, it was a solid return for the Outie versions of the central characters, and it leaves us with more questions following everything that happened in the Season 1 finale. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down the plot and explaining the ending of Season 2 Episode 2 in the aim to help you guys put together a much greater picture of this Severance narrative. This analysis will contain spoilers, so if you do happen to be someone who hasn't seen the episode yet, then I would recommend watching this video after you've seen it. Before I get into it though, if you want to keep up to date on all of my Severance videos coming over the next few weeks, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating and subscribing to the channel. But without further ado, let's dive into my explained video for Severance Season 2 Episode 2. So the premiere of Severance Season 2 kicked off with a bang, introducing intriguing new questions and reuniting the Macrodata team. It served as a captivating continuation of the thrilling finale from Season 1, focusing primarily on the innies. However, we still haven't fully explored their experiences during their ventures beyond Lumon, and we were yet to catch up with the Outie versions of the characters as well. While we did get some updates, they were mostly based on the innies conversations, and based on the events of Episode 1, it was clear that Helly was also holding back some crucial information. Episode 2, titled Goodbye Mrs. Selvig, swiftly brings us up to speed with the events that unfolded in the outside world during the break between seasons. We dive right into the consequences of the Season 1 finale, where Mark shouts out that his wife Gemma is alive at a gathering, and then suddenly, Outie Mark regains control. His sister Devon quickly notices the shift in his demeanour, prompting her to reach out to him. The narrative then shifts to Helena Egan, who is approached and questioned by her father James Egan, the current CEO of Lumon, following her innies outburst at a company gala. And based on all of the hectic events seen in that finale, Helena assigns Milchick with the task of uncovering every word spoken by the innies to identify everyone they interacted with. Following this, she makes her way to a different conference room where Harmony Cobell is waiting. Helena shares a quick overview of Lumon's strategies for managing the fallout, and she thanks Harmony for her prompt action regarding the innies uprising, extending both an apology and a proposal to rejoin the company. Cobell is eager to move forward with questioning Dylan and reviewing the security footage, but is then cut off by Helena as they apparently have a different plan. Helena presents Harmony with a promotion to the newly established Severance Advisory Council at Lumon. Miss Cobell takes this as an insult and suggests that Lumon doesn't value her and rather they fear her. Helena says in response that they fear no one and says that if they didn't hold her in such high esteem, they wouldn't be making such a generous offer. There appears to be tension between Cobell and the higher-ups at Lumon, prompting her to carefully consider the promotion before making a decision. Soon after, Helena records a video attributing her innies' public outburst to a combination of excessive drinking and a non-Lumon approved medication for an arm rash. We then get the opening credits, which are slightly different from what we saw in Season 1. This version leans more into the storytelling of the series, expanding beyond just Mark's character. Helly, Gemma, Miss Casey, and Harmony Cobell all make their appearances, intensifying the conflict within Mark's dual identities. The balloons featured in the opening sequence further symbolise Mark's inflated ego, with his tie serving as their strings. This playful nod recalls the blue balloons Milchick presents to Mark in the Season 2 premiere, each adorned with his face. However, these head balloons might carry a deeper significance. The image of Mark's Outie desperately clinging to the balloons suggests his struggle to reclaim lost memories, a process he can only achieve through reintegration. Additionally, the presence of baby imagery could also imply various interpretations. The babies in the intro may reflect the infantilization of Lumon's innies, who are often treated like children at work. Alternatively, it could also hint at Lumon's more sinister practices, suggesting they might be raising children to exist solely within the severed environment. And finally, at another point in the credits, Mark is seen crossing an expanse of water, evoking connections to the Cold Harbour screen we saw at the end of episode 1 surrounding Miss Casey. Beneath the surface of the water, we can see a car that is partially submerged, prompting speculation about its connection to Gemma's tragic car accident and the lingering memory and sorrow that haunt Mark's mind. Interestingly, the vehicle further resembles Mrs. Cobell's car, which we see her driving at the conclusion of episode 2. Now, I have a theory regarding Harmony Cobell and Mark's wife Gemma that I will share at the end of this video, and it might shed some light on how things do connect. But following the new intro, we begin to reconnect with all of the Outie versions of the main characters and spend more time with each of them in the outside world than we have in the past. Starting with Mark's Outie, he is still at the house of his sister Devon. The two delve into the peculiar outburst Mark had at the party, and Devon presses Mark for clarity on what it all meant. Their conversation is soon interrupted by Milchick, who arrives with some troubling news. He joins Mark and the family to discuss the overtime contingency, which reportedly lasted for about 40 minutes. Although Milchick insists that Lumon won't be punishing anyone, Devon isn't convinced and confronts him about Harmony Cobell's alleged lactation fraud. Instead of letting Mark go, the newly appointed floor boss simply tells him that he will see him on Monday. However, Mark is uncertain about returning to Lumon. Milchick emphasises how brave Mark's innie was and suggests that he would hate to reward his bravery with releasing him. So strangely, Outie Mark seems to be receiving a very different kind of response compared to the rest of his MDR team. The day following the party, Mark and Devon gather at Pip's diner, where Mark reveals his plan to leave Lumon. However, his sister presses him about the oddity of Milchick's visit and his previous outburst. Mark reacts defensively to Devon's suggestion that he was alluding to his deceased wife Gemma, firmly stating that he even identified her body. The trauma surrounding her death is evident, especially since we've seen Mark frequently visit the tree still marked with police tape. Yet despite his convictions, there's a lingering doubt that things may not be as they seem. He storms out of the meeting with his sister, unaware that the new Lumon security chief, Drummond, has been eavesdropping on their entire exchange. And once he returns home, he finds himself gazing at the house of Mrs. Selvig across the street. Milchick eventually pays another visit to Mark, attempting to charm him into rejoining Lumon. And along with a stylish pineapple basket, the company dangles a salary increase and promises a thorough investigation into his innie's allegations. Milchick also goes into Gemma, recalling that Mark opted for Severance due to the pain of losing her, while hinting that his innie has discovered love at work. Moving back over to Helena, her Outie remains at the Lumon building for the remainder of this episode. She looks over security footage showcasing her innie Helly interacting with Mark. Among these moments is their kiss from season 1, which she rewinds to relive. She clearly thinks of something here, and it once again points to the theory that what we saw in episode 1 might actually be Helena instead of Helly rejoining the MDR. We'll have to see if that turns out to be the case, but at the minute, all signs are pointing towards that. Then there's also Dylan, who finds himself without a job and heads to an interview at a door manufacturing company. Unfortunately, the mood shifts dramatically when the manager discovers Dylan's decision to join the Severance program, resulting in his immediate dismissal. And the situation worsens when Dylan's wife Gretchen reaches out to ask how the interview went, and we get a good idea that this is causing issues for their relationship. And finally, we catch up with Irving, who leaves his apartment and heads to a nearby payphone to make a call. He speaks into the receiver saying, "I see you're not answering, but I just wanted to let you know that my innie got the message." As the scene unfolds, we then discover that he's not by himself, as Christopher Walken's Bert observes him from a distance. So this raises an intriguing question. Does Outie Bert already have a connection with Outie Irving? Their interactions do point to that, especially since Irving had marked Bert's name and address on a map. And this could also shed light on their mutual attraction on Lumon's severed floor. Irvin has been tirelessly painting the testing floor, working through the night to send a subconscious message to his innie. We learned that his efforts did pay off, and he celebrated this achievement by contacting someone who is clearly upset with him. So could that person on the phone be Bert, or is that someone entirely different? Anyway, this leads us to the concluding moments of episode 2, where we witness Milchick, Drummond, and Helena strategizing Mark's reintegration into the severed floor. Milchick discloses that he has maneuvered to secure replacements for the macro data refinement team, including 1 employee from abroad and 2 who were previously laid off from 5X, as introduced in episode 1. Surprisingly, the process of restaffing the MDR floor just took 2 days instead of the mentioned 5 months that the innies had been led to believe. Helena darkly emphasizes that it's crucial for them to have Mark back on the job, at least temporarily, to finalize the Cold Harbor project. However, Drummond suggests that Lumon's board is prepared to grant Mark what he desires, including heli, since, as revealed in the first episode, he refuses to engage with whatever Cold Harbor entails without his original team. So Milchick goes around apologizing to bring Dylan and Irvin back to MDR, while the new team is quickly dismissed. Later, Dylan and Irvin clock in for their shift, and soon after this, we see Helena putting on her Lumon badge and descending in the elevator to the severed floor. And again, we find ourselves questioning whether this is truly Helena or Heli who is going down to MDR. And when we come to the last scene later that evening, we see Mark arriving home after a long day at work, only to encounter Harmony Cobell, who seems to have a lot on her mind. Despite his barrage of questions, she remains tight-lipped, instead revealing her astonishment that Lumon managed to convince him to stick around. She comments on how easily he can be influenced, and Mark, unwilling to let her go, presses her for information about Gemma. After a moment of uncertainty, Harmony eventually speeds away in her car, leaving him with even more questions than answers. So the conclusion of episode 2 strongly suggests that Helena might have made her way back to the severed floor, while it also emphasizes on Mark's peculiar significance to the enigmatic Cold Harbor project. Lumon is so eager to have him return to that file that they are prepared to rehire his entire team. What's particularly unsettling is the reminder that Mark's work at macro data refinement is probably linked to Gemma's innie Miss Casey. It essentially raises a host of new questions, adding to the overarching mystery surrounding the Cold Harbor project itself. So what are my theories surrounding all of this, and what was my Miss Cobell and Gemma theory that I mentioned earlier on? Well, in the first episode of Season 2, we discovered that the random numbers displayed on Mark's computer triggered genuine human emotions in the refiners, suggesting these feelings may originate from real individuals. Additionally, Miss Casey's file revealed that she appears to be in a state of stasis. It further seems that the board is prepared to risk everything for Mark to complete his project, which leads me to believe that the situation is much larger than just one individual. My current theory revolves around the theme of immortality and the potential revival of Lumon's founder Keir. I suspect he aims to push the boundaries of human cognitive capabilities, and the tasks assigned to the innies are part of a larger plan to realise that vision in the future. The significant hint was found in Miss Casey's file during episode 1, suggesting that she was the 25th build. And I believe the conclusion of episode 2 further supports this theory, particularly regarding Miss Cobell. Earlier in the episode, Helena informed the recently dismissed Miss Cobell that the company appreciated her contributions during the innie crisis and was eager to bring her back. However, they had no intention of reinstating her on the severed floor. Instead, they were offering her a fictitious position. Although Harmony had requested and received an apology, it fell short of her expectations, and she came to the realization that Lumon's desire to rehire her stemmed from fear rather than genuine appreciation. They aimed to keep her content and within their control, but at a distance from the severed employees, especially since she had intertwined herself with Mark's personal life. And ultimately, rather than accepting the new role, Miss Cobell chose to leave town following that heated exchange with Mark. Now, in Season 1, we were introduced to Harmony Cobell, who had created a shrine dedicated to Lumon. This included a portrait of Keir along with various certificates and photographs from her time at the Myrtle School for Girls. One striking detail though was a ventilator tube adorned with a hospital tag bearing the name Charlotte Cobell and her birthday, which read March the 17th, 1944. And this suggested that Harmony was likely Charlotte's daughter. Actress Patricia Arquette was asked about this in an interview, and she said, "There is an answer to that question. It's also rooted in Harmony's deep inner self. Mark is a special project she's working on, and that's all I'm going to say about that." Now to us, it's clear that Miss Cobell has developed an unusual obsession with Mark and Gemma, and her involvement in Mark's life raises some red flags. But here's a wild theory that I and a few others are starting to believe in. What if Gemma is actually the daughter of Harmony Cobell? We've already been hit with the shocking twist that Miss Casey is Mark's wife Gemma, and that Mark is involved in Miss Casey's Cold Harbour file without knowing so. Given the recurring themes of parenthood and childhood throughout the series, it got me wondering if there's a deeper connection between Mark and Harmony than we initially thought. Now of course, Cobell's interest in Gemma could very well stem from her mother Charlotte being in a comparable predicament. But Harmony's reaction to Mark at the conclusion of this episode makes me think that there's a deeper link to Gemma. If there is indeed a significant personal connection, like Gemma being her daughter, it would clarify a lot of what we've been seeing surrounding her character. So overall, we'll just have to see if this theory turns out to be true or along the right path, and it makes me intrigued to see what we get from the innie versions of the main characters over the next few episodes. But that was my video explaining the plot and ending for Severance Season 2, Episode 2. I do hope this breakdown helps some of you guys understand the events and smaller details of Episode 2 a bit better, and overall, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on it, so don't forget to let me know down below in the comment section. For much more videos and news on shows like Severance, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like, rating, and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.